Are you considering owning a ferret? If you do, there's one thing you need to know. They are expensive. The food's not terribly expensive, but medical care can be a significant chunk of change. I'm just leaving the vet's office to pick up a prescription for one of my ferrets who got sick for the fourth time in the last 3 months. One time was about 2, 3 months ago. He went into anaphylaxis. He had allergic reaction and nearly died, and that was well over $1,000. The last couple of trips have just been a couple $100. So if you do want to have a ferret, and they are lovely pets, they're absolutely hysterical and they're great companions. Just understand you need to have money set aside to take care of their health stuff. So you want to get a ferret. Part 1, bonus edition. One of the most important things before you even get your ferret is identify where there's a vet near you. Ferrets are considered exotic animals, and as a result of that, there's not many veterinarians that take care of them. Many will say on their website they take care of ferrets, but you need to make the phone call. Reason I say this is earlier this, about a month and a half ago, good old Gene here got really sick and he nearly died. Fortunately, the ferret that I take him to primarily knows how to treat ferrets and was able to save his life. However, in many cases, a doctor that will take care of them could be hundreds of miles away. Ferrets get sick, and sometimes they get sick very quickly. So research your veterinarians. Ferrets are, by their very nature, a social creature. They like to interact with your humans, but they also like to interact with other ferrets. So, if you're planning on getting one, well, you better get two. Otherwise, they get depressed. They get stressed, and ultimately that shortens their life. The other thing is socialization. They like to be around people, so where their cage is, well, it should be in kind of an open space where they can interact with the family. And they also need to come out. They need, multiple hours, 2 to 3 hours of playtime every single day where they're able to run around, explore, and play with their little ferret partner. So, if you want to get a ferret, you want to get ferrets. So you want to get a ferret. Part 3, the stank. Truth be told, they don't really stink. They have a natural odor. It's a very subtle kind of a musky smell. They're in the same family as skunks and weasels and things like that. But they all come descented, whether you buy them from a store or you rescue them. They're naturally extremely clean animals. They're constantly grooming themselves. And they don't like being dirty. They do their business, if you will, in a specific spot. I have pee-pee pads set up in my house, as well as they have a set spot in their cage where they do their business. And if you don't clean that up, yeah, you can get a bit of the ammonia smell, just like if you don't clean up after your cat. Problem with the smell is if you wash them too much. You wash them when they get really dirty, if they get muddy or whatever. That stimulates the production of the oils, which makes the musky smell. You don't need to wash them. They wash themselves. Self-cleaning pets. So you want to get a ferret. Part 4. Where on earth are they going to sleep? If you can't let them free roam 24 hours a day, and most people can't, they're going to need a cage. When you go to the pet store, they're going to get you a cage that's probably about the size for a guinea pig. It's way too small. Here's what you're going to need. This is a Ferret Nation cage. Gene, do not fall. It's about 5.5 feet tall. Up here, it has a living area where they can sleep. They have their beds. They have t-shirts that have scent of family members on them, so they feel comfortable and safe. Down here you have their eating area, food and water, and then down below is their sanitary area. It's important to keep their litter areas separate from their living area because, well, you don't poop where you sleep. Why should your ferrets? So, hope this information is helpful, and till the next one, bye-bye. So you want to get a ferret, Gender Edition, Part 5. Not going to talk about the obvious differences between gender. This is a family channel, but the females tend to be much smaller, hi honey, than the males.
what I'm going to talk about is kind of the differences in temperament. Honey, my female, is very independent. She's not one for liking to be kind of held, cuddled, or anything like that. Gene, on the other hand, my big boy here, he prefers to be with people. He likes interacting. Oh gosh, I'm getting kissed. He likes to be interacting with people. He likes to be cuddled. He'll oftentimes fall asleep on me. It's just what he does. And, well, things are just kind of gone off the rails. Oh dear. Oh, okay. All right. You want to get a ferret. Part 6, time commitment. You would think that an animal that sleeps 16 to 20 hours a day does not require a lot of time to take care of. The exact opposite is actually true. Ferrets need 4 hours or so a day outside the cage, if not more, where they can run around and play and explore. They also bond really, really closely with their humans. They like to spend time with you. Just like anything that loves you, it loves to spend time with you. It loves to just, well, sit on your shoulder and do whatever. My male, the other one that's not in camera, he likes to sleep on my chest when I'm watching television. It's just what he does. So if you work long hours, or you travel, or you don't have a really good support system, a ferret's not going to be a good pet for you. They get depressed when they're not interacted with. They like to spend time. They like to be around. So you want to get a ferret, part 7, ferret proofing edition. As you may have seen from some of my previous videos, ferrets are naturally very inquisitive and they like to get into things. So when you get a ferret, or even before you get a ferret, you need to take a look at the space they're going to be playing in, interacting in, and ferret proof it. What does that mean? That means plugging up the little holes, nooks and crannies that they can get into, get stuck, get hurt. Making sure there's no little objects that they can swallow, because intestinal blockages are remarkably common and remarkably expensive to fix in these little guys. The bottom line is you take the time, you make the environment safe for them, and they will provide you with years of enjoyment. If you choose not to, then you're looking at medical bills. I hope this helps. So you want to get a ferret, part 7, ferret proofing, bonus edition. Did you know that ferrets are burrowing animals? They were used to actually hunt rabbits, and in fact they still are in the UK. And one thing you have to be careful of is if you have potted plants, they will dig in them, and you have to be real careful because a lot of that stuff can be toxic and make them really, really sick. The other thing is, because they're burrowing animals, they like to dig on furniture. Now, as an example, this particular little beast has decided to dig a small hole underneath my couch, and as a result, she and her brother go and hide inside the couch. Now, they haven't eaten anything, they haven't gotten it hurt or anything like that, but sometimes they fall asleep and it's hard to get them out. So you need to be careful with that. Remember, they'll dig a hole where they can't find one. So you want to get a ferret, part 8, food edition. Ferrets are obligate carnivores. That means they can only eat meat or meat protein. Now, many people will profess that a ferret needs to eat only raw meat, and in an ideal world, yeah. Mine, unfortunately, including this little beast, they don't like it. So they have been eating kibble basically their whole life, with the exception of adding some raw egg and salmon oil from time to time. The kibble they use, it's either Missouri or oxbow or a little bit of a mix of both. And it has the right nutritional needs because they have very short digestive systems and they can be sensitive. Ferrets also have a little bit of a sweet tooth. So if you've eaten something that's a bit sweet, they will go and try to lick your lips because they like that, but they can't have. So you want to get a ferret, part 8, bonus edition, food. Things you should not give your ferret. It may be really, really tempting to go and just buy cat food because, you know, maybe they're somewhat similar and they are frankly a bit more inexpensive. Okay, honey. But you can't. It doesn't have enough protein content and it'll make them sick. Another thing you don't feed them, fruits. They have trouble regulating their blood sugar, and while they may like them, it's also really bad for them. Same thing holds true for dairy products. I know if I'm having a bowl of ice cream and they're running around, they're very, very interested. As apparently they're interested in my glasses. The reality is that's also very, very bad for them. So pretty much from a treat perspective, it needs to be meat-based. From a diet perspective, it needs to be meat. No fruits, no vegetables. So you want to get a ferret. Part 9. What do ferrets play with? Well, ferrets are naturally very intelligent and very inquisitive little creatures. So really for them, anything can be a toy. But some of the things that mine particularly like is they love boxes. They love climbing into things. They love tubes. They're burrowing animals, so it reminds them of being in a tunnel. And also just like dog toys, dog cat toys, soft plushies, things like that, things they can pick up, things they can stash. Gene, the male who's been on video also, he likes tennis balls, but you have to be careful with those because he has a tendency to bite through them. As soon as he kind of bites through them, you have to throw them out because they don't need to swallow anything. And that's a main thing, is make sure the toys don't have loose parts that they can swallow because they can get. So you want to get a ferret. Part 10. Some of the little things you're going to need. First thing is you're going to need a little set of nail clippers. Their nails grow quickly and need to be trimmed generally every 2 weeks. You need something to keep them busy while you clip their nails because they don't like it very much. So something like this, a little tiny bit, or salmon oil helps keep them occupied while you clip their nails. They shed twice a year. So this deshedding mitt is helpful for removing excess hair because they are prone to hairballs. When they do get a hairball, they can't throw up. That's a fun fact. So a little tiny bit of this helps have them pass the hairball without any kind of discomfort. My ferrets have allergies. My vet then recommended that I literally give them children's Benadryl, a teeny tiny bit in a syringe to right about there. It's out of focus. Does wonders. So you want to get a ferret. Part 11. Do ferrets bite? The short answer is sort of. Ferrets will bite when they're playing with other ferrets. It's just part of their ordinary play routine. They will nip. This one in particular likes to do that. They nip at your ankles, they nip at your hands a little bit to get your attention, like play with me. Other times that they do bite is if they're startled, if they're afraid, if they're in pain, like if they're sick or something like that. You know, they will bite. And one of the things that particularly if they bite and they bite hard is a firm no with their name, because they do recognize their name, will oftentimes stop them. And it just becomes a question of repetition. But short answer is, yeah, ferrets do bite a little bit. So you want to get a ferret, part 12, poop edition. This will be fun. Ferrets are remarkably easy to toilet train. In their cage, you set up their litter tray, you put a little bit of their poop in it, and they will sniff it out. And through repetition, they will consistently do their business in the same place. When they're out playing, you get like the pee-pee pads, like dog pee-pee pads, and you put a little bit of their poop on it. They will again sniff it out and they will do their business there. They're remarkably clean animals. They also generally always poop immediately after they wake up or after they eat. They have very short digestive systems. So that's just what they do. So don't get frustrated. They do have accidents, but it's not that often. So you want to get a ferret, part 13. Blind is a bad edition. Ferrets have notoriously bad eyesight. They can see maybe 2-3 feet in front of their face, and beyond that they really can't see too awful much. They do make up with this with incredible sense of smell, incredible hearing, which kind of helps them keep out of trouble. But Because of their poor vision, it does make them kind of prone to accidents, particularly falls. They get excited, they'll be jumping around, they'll be carrying on, they don't see where they are, and they can fall. So, one thing that you would need to do, for example, if you have them playing on your bed, is have something soft on the floor in the event they get excited and fall off, that they don't injure themselves. Because injuries are one of the most common reasons ferrets end up at the vet. So you want to get a ferret, part 14, the actual costs. The cost can be broken down in two places, the initial and the annual. The initial, and this includes getting the animals, the cage, bedding, toys, veterinary care because they need to go for a checkup when you first get them, and get vaccinations if they don't have them. For two, it's going to be pretty close to $2,000. Ongoing annual costs, which include bedding, food, ongoing veterinary care, they need to get a checkup once a year, uh, additional toys, additional ferret proofing because ferret proofing never ends. That's going to be roughly $2,000 a year. Now, if you figure a ferret lives, say, 6 years, you're looking at roughly $14,000 over the life of the animals. So you want to get a ferret, part 14, bonus edition. One of the things that was explained to me when I first got mine was you need to keep roughly about $2,000 liquid in the event of unexpected medical expenses. That's proven to be 100% true for me. One of the things that I did, because it is hard to keep $2,000 in cash floating around, is there's a credit card through Care Credit. It can only be used for vets and medical expenses and stuff like that. Real easy to apply for. And I got that, I applied, got approved, and I just keep the thing in a drawer in case one of the ferrets gets sick, and that's what I use, and then just pay it off. So now you know. So you want to get a ferret, bonding edition. Bonding with a ferret is actually remarkably easy because they're such social animals. They will instinctively want to spend time with you, and that's the main thing. You just need to spend time with them, whether it be holding them like this or when they're playing. When they're playing and running around, don't just sit and watch them. Interact, play with them, squeak a ball, get them playing fetch, things like that. The other thing that's really, really helpful is in their cage, you put something that smells like you, like say a t-shirt that you've worn. And they will kind of attach that smell with you. One thing that happens a lot of times when you're handling them is they will rub on you. They're marking you. They're basically telling you that you're their human and they love you. So you want to get a ferret, part 16, injury edition. Ferrets are pretty durable pets, but they are incredibly clumsy. They are prone to injuries. Primarily, they take fall damage. So, they fall off furniture and things like that, and they can break bones and get dislocations and stuff like that. On top of that, they also are prone to getting squished. They're very quiet when they walk around, and as a result of that, you have to be really careful where you sit. Look down before you sit down on the couch because it's quite possible one is snuck underneath just to see what you were doing. You also have to be careful how you walk when they're out running around and playing because they do follow, they do try to be near you, and as a result, they can be underfoot. So you kind of have to be careful where you place your feet so you don't squish your little pride. So you want to get a ferret, part 17. Do you give them a bath? The short answer is no. Unless they get into the garbage or something really, really smelly, they clean themselves. They're like cats like that. The only time that I find that I need to give them a bath is, when they are shedding and they're particularly itchy. I give them an oatmeal bath. Take some regular, like steel cut oats, put it into a stocking, wrap it up, and put it in a tub. Keep the water warm. If it just feels warm to you, it's probably cold to them. They have very, very high body temperatures. You put it in, you gently wash them, you take them out, you dry them off briefly with a towel, and then you let them down in their play area. The hilarious thing is they really get the zoomies when they're drying themselves off. And, that's basically how you keep a ferret clean. So you want to get a ferret, part 18. Are they good children's pets? The short answer to that is no, these are not beginner pets, particularly with small children. Yeah, ferrets are pretty sturdy, but they are prone to injuries. You can drop them, and sometimes little kids don't quite know what to do. Um, the Hey, it's a ferret, but the other thing is that, ferrets startle easy. They don't like being, if they get suddenly grabbed or something like that, they will bite. And if it bites a little kid, little kid's not going to be particularly happy with it. If you have older kids, I would say maybe above 10, which kind of understand limits and things like that, yeah, they'll be perfectly fine. But if you have little kids and you choose to have one, supervise, always supervise. So you want to get a ferret, part 19, Thanksgiving. First, it's not advised to go and get a new pet during the holidays. It's far too stressful for them. If you do, especially during Thanksgiving, if there's lots of people around, it can be overstimulating. So if you can move their enclosure, do it. You also need to be careful with the temperature. When there's lots of people in the house, the temperature can rise, and above 80 degrees, they get uncomfortable. You should not feed them table scraps, and you should make sure that your guests don't feed them table scraps because it can be dangerous for them. You also need to make sure that people aren't sick. Ferrets get the flu, they get colds, they get things like that. So if people are sick, they should not touch them. And also keep the ferrets away from little kids. I talked about that the other day. Ferrets will bite if they're startled. And last, ferrets are not an entree. So you want to get a ferret, part 20. How to tell when your little stink noodle isn't feeling particularly good. First is lethargy. They're high energy animals when they're not sleeping, and if they seem to be really low energy, something could be amiss. The next is diarrhea. Could be from, they ate something they shouldn't have, they're trying to pass a hairball, something like that. Also, if they're not eating and or drinking, they drink and eat every couple of hours. So that's why it's important to monitor how much they're eating, as well as monitoring how much you're drinking. So you got to change their water every single day. That way you can tell how much they're drinking. The next is like around their eyes and nose. If there's discharge, they could be having allergies or a cold. And then the last is on their little teeny tiny paw pads, their peats. If they're really red, that could be a sign that they're having an allergic reaction. Those are a few signs if you're stinking. So you want to get a ferret, part 21. Ferrets need stimulation. Now behave yourself. No, not that kind. Ferrets are so naturally curious, and they're also remarkably intelligent, and they really need to have mental stimulation. So what that means, and some of the things you can do is, obviously new toys can help that, but also after a period of time, you start to accumulate quite a bit of toys and things like that for them to play with, boxes, tubes, all those kinds of things, and you rotate them out. You put them either in a different place, you put new toys in, take old toys out, and it gives them something to explore and stimulate their minds, because a bored ferret is a sad ferret. So you want to get a ferret, part 22. Sometimes you end up at the vet at 3 a.m. Poor Gene's not feeling so hot. You can see he's a little bit pink around there. So he's getting checked. I'm brave. So you want to get a ferret, part 23. As I've talked about on a bunch of other videos, ferrets do get sick, and they get sick rather abruptly. And it's really handy to have some things kind of at the ready. So when you do have to rush off to the vet, it's not a panic moment. So couple things that you would need, and this is actually really, really simple. First of all, you need a carrier. I use an ordinary cat carrier or a carrier similar to that, for a small dog. And within that carrier is some of their bedding material. And what I mean by that is like the t-shirts or towels that they've had in their cage that have both their scent or their human scent on them. It makes them feel more comfortable and more secure. Also included is generally a couple of their little plushies, so they have something to kind of snuggle up with. And where's Honey going? It's a ferret butt. And then the other thing is, because invariably the vet is going to ask for a stool sample, particularly if they've been having diarrhea or something like that. So keep a couple Ziploc baggies near kind of their litter area. That way you can grab a sample real quick and take it with you. And that's really all you need to be able to go to the vet. Well, that and a big old pile of money, because we've talked about that. They get expensive. So you want to get a ferret, part 24, bonus bonding edition. So this is more or less just an observation, particularly with good old Honey here, who is really, really closely bonded with my son. Now, unfortunately, my son has been not feeling too well for a better part of the last week, so he's been kind of quarantined, away from the ferrets for practical purposes. Well, yesterday was the first day that he was able to play with them. And it was really weird because for like the last week, Honey doesn't mind being handled by me or anything like that. But her play wasn't as exuberant as it normally is. And once my son kind of came back into the picture, oh my gosh, she was bouncing off the walls yesterday. She was so happy to see him. So when I say that ferrets bond very closely with their humans, they do. They miss you. They want you. They want to be near you. It really, truly is lovely. Right? Hey, Honey, pay attention. That's not very ladylike. So, free Jean! So you want to get a ferret, part 25, Christmas Chaos Edition. So it's that time of year, time to put up the Christmas tree and all the lights and all that stuff. And while it may be absolutely lovely for you and your family, it can be really dangerous for your pets. As we've kind of established, ferrets are really, really curious and really intelligent, but they also do dumb things. So, for example, when you put your tree up, you're going to need to have a way to protect the tree from these little guys. They love to chew on things like the wires for the lights. Not only can that electrocute them, those wires are also treated with chemicals. They can have lead, they can have arsenic, selenium, a whole bunch of things that'll make them extraordinarily sick. So you need to basically ferret-proof your tree. So as we talked about in an earlier short, you need to ferret-proof your house. Well, guess what? You need to ferret-proof it again. It's an ongoing process. You also have the risk of potential fall if they do get in the tree and they can climb up inside of it because they can climb up inside the tree. They can fall. They can hurt themselves. So you got to really be careful about that. So with Christmas, you need to give them extra attention. When they're playing, you really need to pay attention to what they're doing. Unless you're fortunate enough to have like a dedicated room that's just for them, you're going to need to keep your eyes open. I'll say it now, and I'll say it again. Merry Christmas, and enjoy your little critter. So you want to get a ferret? They get into everything. Last night, during Jean's and Honey's playtime, Jean got into something or another. Not sure if it was a piece of tennis ball or something like that, but it got caught in his throat. And he was running back and forth. between his little houses and his boxes, and he was trying to get it out. And the ferret's instinct is when they're injured, they try to hide, and that's what he was trying to do. And ultimately, he did get it up. He kind of, they don't throw up, they can't vomit, but he did kind of spit it up. But for a little while, it was kind of scary because didn't know what was wrong with him. He seems to be none the worse for wear now. He's, sleepy as usual because it's early. And so keep an eye on their behavior because you will notice very subtle changes in their behavior, and that can be indicative of them having some kind of distress. So you want to get a ferret. Part I've lost count, but the heat edition. So it's summertime, and ferrets have evolved over time to only really be cold weather animals. They have obviously thick coats. They cannot sweat, nor can they pant like a dog. So it's important if the temperature is above 80 degrees to keep a very, very close eye on them because they can, thank you, Gene, I know I'm boring, because they can suffer from heat stroke very, very quickly. It's important to give them cool water, shade. Mine are indoors, so I have air conditioning on for them, and it's important for them to keep cool. If you do see that your ferret is acting lethargic or is starts to pant or act wobbly and stuff like that, that's time to gently start to cool them down. Don't dunk them in water. This kind of came to mind because I saw the really nice lady on Ferret Tube TV who did an extended post. Jesus, Gene, nice blep. Who did an extended post about this, and I just figured I would send this out. So props to Ferret Tube TV. She's an awesome lady with a lot of really good knowledge. And that's all I got to say. So keep your ferrets cool. They'll appreciate it. Right, Gene? Thank you.